Greetings, YouTube. If my voice sounds a little rough, I'm coming off my second bout of COVID. Yay, let's hear it for the pandemic. Um, I was reading something on the Big Purple the other day, the RPG Net, and it brought up two points I thought I'd like to talk about. One is, how do you do law enforcement in a setting that is off-planet extensively? And how do you prevent it from becoming copaganda? So if you have law enforcement in the far future, if it's on a planetary scale, it'll be some organization, whether it's a global government or some Interpol or something like that, or even if the countries still exist and they can take care of that themselves. And if it's a system-wide, you can probably pretty much consider something going on where it's either each zone of your system, if it's not one unified government, is still going to have a functioning law enforcement system that has some kind of interconnection to it. But let's imagine that you have achieved FTL drives. And my favorite FTL drive is jump engines, or even ones that just put you into a really fast state so that you're moving through hyperspace. Those are also cool because that gives you downtime. But if you like jump engines, and if you're going to use jump drives, I always like to use ones that require the gravitational lenses created at the poles of a star. And one zone is used for incoming ships and one is used for outgoing ships. So that gives you some control, but not all the control, because the ships going through aren't going in a line. As long as you hit that spherical zone at the right speed and with the right kind of device on your ship, you can travel through it and you come whizzing out the other side. Probably don't want to be going straight down because you'd come up potentially into the sun. Though actually, if you set up right, go straight down, come out the other side, maybe that would work that way. Or the gravitational ledges, that's an interesting concept. I have to think about that. But if that happens, suddenly you have a much bigger problem, because that means somebody can commit a crime, either a property crime or a crime against sentience, and then escape. How do you catch them? What do you do if they're out of your star system, out of your home, that star system, they're scot-free? Well, if you have a truly cohesive zone like the Federation, or is it the Confederacy, or is the Confederation in Orville? I can't remember what they call it, but one big area that is mutually agreeing treaties and self-supporting from different planetary systems and different entire planetary groups, star groups, from different species all over that zone of the galaxy, or even the entire galaxy. You might be able to still have some kind of functioning law enforcement. Maybe some, the Space Rangers, which I love that show. That animated show was great. But what if you don't have that? What if there isn't one cohesive government? So each system is its own system, either cohesive or broken into planets. Or there are certain star systems that are grouped together, like this may be the zone that's controlled by the Terran government, and that zone over there is the one that's controlled by the Gorn, and that one down there are the ones controlled by the Wookiees. So what do you do when you have all those conflicting laws involved? Because what's illegal in one system or one star group may be illegal somewhere else. So the legality of a different acts and different substances and different items is going to change a lot. And I think Star Wars handles that pretty well in using the bounty system. The problem being that essentially anyone can issue a bounty. I don't think they have to necessarily be any form of governmental control. If you've got the money, you can place the bounty. Now that's useful if, say, you as an individual have been wronged and the government that you live under has said, well, we're not going to do anything because they left our system. So now you have to go find somebody and within your budget to go right that wrong, go find that person or retrieve that thing to you. But that's going to be very easily abused because there is no way to know that the person who's shilling out the money is not themselves a criminal, asking the bounty hunter to go retrieve someone that got away from an abusive relationship, or someone that was a slave, or trying to retrieve an item that maybe belonged to their family a long time ago but was sold off, but this person thinks it shouldn't have been. Yeah, and my father sold that, but I don't think my father should have sold that thing. I want it back. So they issue a bounty on it, and now you are being involved in the culpability of committing a crime. You're stealing it from someone who legitimately should own it. So how do you prevent that? And if you do have Star Rangers and of some variety, Space Rangers, and or Galaxy Rangers, sorry, Galaxy Rangers. You have some kind of Galaxy Rangers group, and your player characters want to play that, and that's a legitimate model of a game. How do you avoid copaganda? I used to be a big consumer of copaganda. I watched so many crime shows on television. And I watched them because I was a justice junkie. Because I had never received justice in my own personal life, and I saw injustice all around me. And in the fictional worlds of those shows, I got justice. I saw justice. And the reality is that if someone commits a major crime in America, there's about a 2% chance they'll get caught. Those shows have far higher levels of success than the real world does. And it makes the cops look like heroes. It even makes the cops look like heroes when they bend the rules, which means they violate the civil liberties and human rights of people who are suspected of a crime, not guilty of a crime. It's not a cop's job to issue a death warrant. It's not a cop's job to decide whether somebody is guilty or not. It's their job to arrest suspects. And that gets very difficult on a galactic scale, or even a local star group scale. It becomes hard. And it becomes difficult, say, if the person is a space pirate. They're a raider. They go out there and they hit systems, or they hit a ship, and they disappear into the stars. They're out there in the black. They're gone. How do you find them? Do you have to hire another group of space pirates? So does it boil down to the Pinkerton detectives, where they're just guns for hire and they'll do whatever they are pretty much they're told to do? They're mercenary groups. And that is not a way to have a cohesive functioning culture or government. That's not going to be stable. And it can still fall into the trap of making the people, the bounty hunters, seem heroic when they are not, in fact, necessarily heroic. Cops are not heroes for being cops. Cops should be considered heroes if they follow a code of ethics and they conduct their jobs morally and ethically. They treat everyone under the law correctly and equally, which they don't. So I don't view cops as heroes in the real world. And I don't see any particular reason to view them as being any better in a fantasy setting or a space fantasy setting or a science fiction setting, no matter how hard or soft it is. Now, in a place where you've got a lot of powers, psionic abilities or magic, deciding if someone is or is not guilty of something becomes a lot easier. But in a setting where you don't have those things, it's a lot grayer, just like it is here. So how do you prevent that? I don't have an answer. But I think it's an interesting topic of conversation. And I think it's an interesting model for a campaign of absolute becoming bounty hunters or becoming Galaxy Rangers or selling yourself out and becoming Pinkerton detectives. Doing the thing that must be done because there is no government to do it for the people. That's a fault of those governments, but those people still should get justice, shouldn't they? So let's talk about justice on an interstellar scale. How does it work? How do you keep it from becoming propaganda? And can you do it and have fun?